I'm in Costa Rica right now, and the way of thinking here is way different in terms of the US trying to understand climate change. Last year, President Joe Biden announced at Glasgow at the UN Climate Summit that the US would reach carbon neutrality by the year 2050. Well, Costa Rica also made that goal, but they've made further strides than any other nation in the world. Right now, this nation's electric grid runs on 98% of renewable energy. We're talking geothermal, hydroelectric, wind, solar. It's incredible. And while the nation is still trying to reduce emissions from cars, they are probably one of the most carbon neutral free countries in the world. Period. So how has a developing country in Central America, the size of West Virginia and a population of only 5 million people, become one of the leading forces in taking on climate change? Well, in the time that I've been here, I've talked with locals and expats who are working on projects that revolve around sustainability, and to them, this is not only just a way of saving the world, to them, it's a way of life. Costa Rica has been a key location for the world to rethink clean energy and a clean economy. This can be found in companies placed all across the country. SailCargo Inc. is just one of the companies which people are looking towards. Located in the coastal town of Punta Morales, a small group of Costa Ricans and expats are working together to build SIBA. SIBA is set to become the world's largest sailing and shipping vessel in the world. The boat is built entirely by hand and is using reclaimed wood from forests and lumber yards. Daniel Doggett, who co-founded the company with brothers Lynx and John Porras, want their vessel to be a leading example for how the global shipping industry should be thinking about smaller markets rather than the main global routes found around the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans.
Our company differs in stance a little bit from other comparable ones in primarily Northern Europe. So there are a lot of smaller vessels there, which are wonderful, that primarily will only ship mission or value aligned products. So the shade grown organic biodynamic single lot coffees, which is great, and we will be shipping that as well. We say we are an emission-free shipping company, and as long as it's a legal product that doesn't have a terrible story, we will ship it. So if Coca-Cola came to me and said, will you let us ship emission-free? Why would I say no? The mission of SailCargo Inc. is to prove the value of clean shipping, and we have a vision of having clean ships on the water. So of course, we would like to help major companies transition to zero-emission shipping.
The locals of Punta Morales have benefited largely from SailCargo as it has become the largest employer in their community, as communications manager Pierre Terranova makes clear.
So with this project, we are give them development, okay? We give them work, jobs opportunity, educational opportunities with our courses, and we are trying to teach them how to live sustainable for the earth. Coastal community are the most vulnerable communities in the world, and even more with climate change. So what we want to is to build resilient community with projects like this, with all the change development that the project has, in order to give them to the community.
Up in the mountains in the town of Monteverde, coffee farmers are ditching industrial ways of farming and relying more on old agricultural skills. Now, this is Guillermo Vargas, and he's owned this coffee farm for more than 40-some years. Guillermo's seen his country lose a large portion of its rainforest between the 1950s through the 80s, but he has embraced his country's reforesting efforts from the early 90s to present day. Guillermo has put his passion for conservation into the fields that he and his employees tend to. Throughout his farm, Guillermo raises chickens and goats along with his coffee beans in terms of providing products locally to the citizens of Monteverde. While there are farms similar to Guillermo's all around Monteverde, it's simply the act of engaging in renewable practices that Guillermo would like everyone to follow.
I always keep going in between individual responsibilities, social commitment, national rules or international rules. But at the end, at least you have to be the governor of yourself. So there is also this concept of sustainable me. And sustainable me means that I cannot pretend to do a sustainable farm, or a sustainable country if I am not in myself sustainable. And that is more than what I eat. It's more than what I have. It's more about what I feel, I dream, I think. So if we want to be more sustainable, we have to help individuals to be sustainable persons.
To us Americans and most of the Western world, the Earth is seen as a resource meant to be tended and harvested to help regulate mass productions and profit levels. This has resulted in single-use products ending up in a landfill, which just adds on to the climate crisis. Well, that way of thinking is completely opposite in Costa Rica. To the Costa Ricans, the Earth is more of a provider rather than a resource. What you take has lasting consequences on the ecosystem as a whole. And because of this way of thinking, Costa Ricans have invested themselves more in sustainable practices. This has led to the protection of rainforests and even the regrowth of rainforests as a whole to bring more biodiversity back into the ecosystem. This way of thinking not only has changed how they govern themselves, also how they run their economy. And this is what is known as a circular economy. The idea of a circular economy is being put into practice here in Costa Rica more than any other place in the world. By using and revitalizing resources instead of single-use products, the Costa Rican economy has really flourished and has made the nation one step closer to being carbon neutral. Just off of the Pacific coast of Costa Rica, at Playa Hermosa, ICE, the National Electric Company is working on a large ecological restoration program. The project itself is called the Reef Project. This project takes electric insulators that are made of porcelain and puts them at the bottom of the ocean where coral reefs are starting to grow. Porcelain is just clay reheated and causes no environmental harms to the ocean, and this has resulted in a resurgence of ocean life. Walter Arias, who works for ICE, came up with the idea when he saw how many retired insulators were being discarded.
Escogimos Playa Hermosa por ser un lugar donde ya había algún intento de hacer un arrecife artificial.
In the future, Walter hopes there will be more artificial reefs that are installed throughout the country, leading to more biodiversity returning to the ocean. In terms of regrowing a healthy rainforest, Costa Rica itself holds more than 6% of the world's biodiversity. This means thousands of species can be found in a small, dense area, and most of this biodiversity can be found in the cloud forest outside of Monteverde. Back in Monteverde, Katie Van Dusen is one of the coordinators for the nonprofit group Corclima. Now, she works with Costa Ricans in Monteverde to rethink how economics can be repurposed and be more regenerative rather than wasteful.
Well, I think first is we all need to get on the same page of what a circular economy means. And for me, a circular economy is one in which we minimize the extraction of resources from the earth, and that's not just minerals. It's also the petroleum. It's our water resources and everything that we take from the earth and the atmosphere, and we are stewards of all those resources, and that as we use them, we are not polluting the earth or wasting them or creating a lot of contamination in the process. And then taking it the step further into the donut economy, where we are also paying attention to the basic social needs of everyone at the same time. So there's really a social justice aspect that needs to be added to it.
Not only has this economic practice been successful in Monteverde and other parts of Costa Rica, but this kind of economy also helps change one's practices for the better. Katie says that those who use a circular economy are not beneficial to those who compensate groups, individuals, or organizations who are high polluters and add on to climate change.
I think that the reason that people have had a hard time adapting to this is because in all the universities, in Economics 101, there is a focus on a linear economy, on how we take from the earth and manufacture and then don't think about what happens to it next.
So, where does this put the rest of the world? Well, in terms of reducing our carbon footprint, there are a lot of steps which we can do starting right now. It's only now that companies like SailCargo, Café Monteverde, and the Reef Project are getting a steadier footing. But the world's largest carbon polluters, such as the United States and China, have to do more to help get programs similar to the ones in Costa Rica more mainstream attention to the general population. We can start relying more on massive transportation instead of relying on cars. In terms of farming, we can set up more community gardens and urban farms that can provide more sustainable and healthy food to members of the community. And in terms of introducing a more sustainable economy, we need to start investing in companies who are committing themselves more to a circular way of operating and reusing products. Reporting for Noticias Monteverde, I'm Sean Brinda.